when it comes to using literary devices, I'm just the worst that ever lived. That's a bit of hyperbole. How ironic. Well, not to be overly ostentatious with alliteration, but I get kind of curiously confused when it comes to homonyms, homophones, and homographs. Case in point, a while ago, I had this thing removed from my forehead right here, and after the doctor removed it, she said, "Okay, so here's the thing. The wound is very, very deep, and so you really have to be careful about certain things." And she showed me how to care for it and how to clean it and everything. And one of the things that struck me was that she said she asked that I don't go on the subway, and I was like, "Oh, okay." It was like a big bandage. It was like a big sort of bulbous thing, and I said, "Okay, cool, no problem. Why don't you want me to go on the subway? Are you afraid that like I'll bump it or something like that? Or is there a lot of germs there, like people, sick people or something?" She said, "No, I don't want you to go onto the subway because it'll raise your blood pressure going on and off the subway." And I thought, oh wow. I said, "Wow, that's interesting. How does the subway? How would it raise my my blood pressure?" And she said, "Oh, the stairs." And I thought about it, and I thought, well, I said, I don't think that the stairs will affect me. And she said, "Oh no, the stairs they affect everyone, and what happens is your blood pressure goes up." And she said, and it will cause the wound to not heal as well, and it'll take longer to heal, and you'll scar, and so just avoid the subway for that reason. And I said, I don't think that's going to be a problem with me at all. And she said, "Well, no, it definitely it's an issue." And I said, "You know what? I'm an actor." I'm a comedian and stuff like that, so I'm kind of used to it. And she's like, "How so?" And I said, "Well, I'm just like sort of used to stairs." And she said, "Yeah, but these are big stairs, and there's a lot of them." And I said, "Well, the audiences that I am in front of are pretty big." And this went on for a while, and she finally says, like, "So I'm not," she's like, "I'm sure, like, what are you talking about?" And I said, like I'm not self-conscious. And she was like, what do you mean?" And I said, like, for people staring at me. And she was like, no, I'm talking about the stairs, the literal stairs that you will walk up and down, that the stairs will raise your blood pressure." And I said, oh, makes sense. I said, "I thought you were talking about the stairs, like people looking at my big bulbous thing." And she said, "No." And she just stared at me, and I felt my blood pressure rising, ironically enough. Oh, there we go with those literary devices and my improper use of them. But anyway, I do see. Here's the thing: it was kind of rough for me because, like, I'm a subway guy. I like riding the subway, right? I prefer the subway. I prefer public transportation, actually. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of delays and things like that, but one of the reasons I enjoy riding the subway is that in some way I embrace delays when they happen and things like that. Here's what I do. I play games with myself, and I'm going to share them with you right now, and perhaps you can play them with yourself as well. So the first thing that I do if I feel there's a subway delay happening, and what I'll do is I will like leave a piece of gum or a chip, a Frito or something like that. I'll put it down on the platform as an offering to to Metros, the subway god. Metros is, as you may well know, is the most powerful and wrathful of all the New York City gods. So that's first things first. Leave an offering to Metros, and then what I do is, as I'm standing there looking around, I'm trying to imagine the names of the people around me. I sit there and I'm like, okay, so that's her name's, she looks like a Susan, and he looks like a Richard, or like a Lionel. He's probably like a Lionel Barrymore or something like that. I'm like, yeah, he's fancy. He's probably Lionel. And I'll be like, yeah, and that guy, Larry, classic Larry, like that guy's Larry or whatever. So I do that, right? And then I also, I repeat positive mantras to myself. And I always keep them positive. I would never say something like, oh, like, damn the MTA, because remember, Metros, like even that, I was a little afraid to just say that, but I'm using it as an example of something not to do, because again, Metros is the most wrathful and vindictive of all the New York City gods. But I'll say something like, oh, I'll think a mantra, like inside, not outside, like, you are amazing. All of these people are amazing. Like, I'll say that they're amazing. You're amazing. And I sort of try to be aware of how that changes the dynamic. I took jazz dance, don't worry about it. But I try to be aware of how that changes, like, the dynamic. I'll be like, it doesn't get any better than this. And sometimes if I'm there a long time, I'll be like, oh, I'll think to myself, rats are adorable. Rats are adorable. Rats are adorable. In fact, sometimes I'll run with that, and I will imagine that I am, kind of like Willard from the 1971 horror movie, and I'll imagine like I can control the rats with my mind. I'll be like, go, eat that pizza thing, drag that pizza box or whatever. And I also try to observe their behavior, to see if they start behaving differently. Then I'll be like, oh, Subway's coming, So I play whose butt crack stinks the worst. I'm like, I wonder whose butt crack stinks the worst. Probably Larry, classic Larry. That's always fun. Like, whose butt crack stinks the worst is really a good one. And then when you're there a long time, what you can play is something that I love to play, which is like, who's gonna snap first, and like, who's gonna lose their mind first. So I said, like, who's it gonna be? Who's gonna lose their mind first? It's Susan. Now, Susan's too cool. Susan's cool. It could be Lionel. No, I'm not gonna be Lionel. Who's it gonna be? Who's gonna flip out first? It's gonna be Larry. Larry's gonna flip out first. I'm just like, come on, Larry. Come on, Larry. Lose your mind, man. Lose your mind, Larry. Lose it. Lose it, Larry. Go ahead. Yeah. What? I'm like, it's me. I'm the one who's losing my mind. F the MTA. No, I curse Metros. Get them, rats. Get them. No, not me, rats, not me. Matt's got the stinkiest butt now. LOL. Wow, great commitment, Matt. That was great commitment to the Subway Games bit. Really, really good. And nicely, the way you reincorporate, right? You don't use callback. Reincorporate the stinky butt thing and all the other things. So really job well done, Matt. Really, really job well done. And the other thing is that, honestly, getting allergies. The other thing is that I find the subway is deep, literally and figuratively deep. So I feel like the subway is the mode of transportation that where you come up with the greatest opportunities, the most opportunities for profound experience, for profundity. Don't worry about it. I get dictionary.com word of the day. Don't even worry about it. Stop worrying about my vocabulary. Oh my goodness gracious. But anyway, the subway, I feel like when you're on the subway, you're faced with the greatest amount of moral dilemmas. And for example, you may have seen the viral video of the guy who he's on the subway and he gives this homeless person his jacket, right, or his sweatshirt or something like that. You probably saw that. Yeah, I saw that too, right? Here's the thing: when I saw that, I was like, what? I was like, I did that. I did that too. Like I couldn't. It was hard for me to go like, "Oh, good job," because I was like, "What? I did that. I did that. Was everybody? It's a big deal. I did that before they were like viral, before YouTube, before like everyone had like a cell." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "It's cool that I'm glad that he did it." You know what I mean? But I was like, I could have gone viral. I could have gone viral, and it was like, so I was on the subway one night, coming up on the A train, coming home very late at night. It was bone-crushingly cold outside, super incredibly, painfully cold. And at 145th Street, this man gets on the subway. And he's like, I look over and he's got no shirt on. He's completely bare chested. He's got no shoes or socks, barefoot. And he's got this really large, dirty pair of tuxedo pants, which he's got no belt or anything like that. He's just holding them shut like this. And he's shuffling along, and immediately everybody's just like buried in their book or pretending they're asleep or whatever. But I can't, I'm like watching him, and he's shuffling along, and he's saying, "Excuse me, can you help me?" In a really high voice. He's like, "I have no shoes or shirt. Can you help me? I have no shoes or shirt." And I was like, what is going on? And I'm looking around and I'm looking at this guy, and then I make eye contact with him. And then I'm like, oh no. And he starts shuffling. He starts coming over toward me. He's like, "Can you help me? I have no shoes or shirt." And I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at his eyes, and I'm like, Jesus? What? But then I'm like, no, it's not. Like I know there's no way. You know what I get it. Like but I went to Catholic school. I was taught by nuns, and in my formative years, like that was like, there's always that synapse that like sort of fires and goes like, is it Jesus? You know what I mean? But I get it. I know, but I still do that. And I'm looking at him, and I said, what happened to your shoes and shirt? And he said, "I misplaced them." And I was like, oh shoot. Oh man. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh gosh. And I was wearing a couple layers, and underneath I was wearing this really amazing flannel shirt that I had gotten for Christmas. And it was like white with like blue lines. It was so soft. It wasn't just, it was very fine flannel. It was flannel. It was flannel. And it was just like, oh, it was so warm and wonderful. And I had another one. I received two of them, and one was like blue, which I retained. And that was like, it was just, anyway. So I took off my stuff, and I like took off my shirt, and I just like tossed it to him. I was like, here. I like threw it to him. And then he took it and he put it on. And then he said, "Is there any money in the pocket?" And I said, "No, I'm pretty sure there's not, but if there is, it's mine." And then he shuffled away, and I felt sad immediately. And I felt sad not for him wrongfully, but like I didn't feel sad so much for him or me. I felt sad for my shirt, because my shirt was looking at me like, "What did you do? It's not Jesus. He misplaced his previous shirt." So anyway, again, great story, Matt. Great story. Very, very revealing, and you were vulnerable, and you put yourself out there. Great job, Matt. Way to go. Yeah, but I do find that the subway is the mode of transportation for the, where you can have the opportunity for the most sort of profound experience. Actually, has this ever happened? Has this ever happened to you? I got on the subway and I'm sitting there, and there was this guy on the train, again the A train, and he's talking out loud. Right, he's just talking out loud, and not to anyone in particular, but just like kind of to everyone. And he's loud, but he's conversational at the same time. And and the more he talks, the more I think like he's making sense. Like sitting there like listening to him, like he's like, yeah, de Blasio, here's the thing, like I really like de Blasio in the beginning. I thought, hey, he's progressive, but then in the end, like I have to admit I'm a little bit disappointed in de Blasio, but I guess I vote for him again. He's going on like that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, kind of same feeling the same way about de Blasio, whatever. So anyway, so he goes on and on. I'm like, yeah, it's like, this is weird, right? So anyway, so he gets off the train, and I look over, and this guy's like looking at me like this across from me, and I said to the guy, I was like, it made a lot of sense, like that. And the guy's like, whatever. He started reading again, whatever. So, like, made a lot of sense to me. I don't know about you. It's kind of, am I right? He was making sense, right? Yeah, I mean, granted, he's breaking a social construct of talking out loud, but still, it made sense. It made sense. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe he's intentionally breaking social constructs. I was with my daughter one time, and my daughter Kirsten, we're walking along in the side, and she said, "Dad, I'm going to walk on the left hand side of the sidewalk." And I said, "Why are you going to do that?" And she said, I just want to break social constructs." And I was like, "What?" So she's walking on the left-hand side of the sidewalk. People have to sort of move aside. And then later on, my daughter Una said, "Dad, can we wear our coats on backwards?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" Right? So we put our coats on backwards, and we're walking along on 9th Avenue, and with our coats on backwards. And here's the thing: it felt like people were offended by us walking with our coats on backwards. Like people were looking at me like I was doing something damaging. Like, "Oh, what do you?" Like they felt. I think they felt threatened in some way, and it was a wild experiment. We got to the corner, and this woman looks at me knowingly. She smiles, and I smiled back, and I said, "Oh, don't mind us. We're just breaking social constructs." And she said, "And in such a fun-loving kind of way, my name's Donna." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Donna's breaking social constructs." Oh my gosh. So, but I'm pretty sure I didn't speak to the whole story that I just relayed to you. I didn't speak the social construct thing. I didn't speak that out loud to the other people on the train. I mean, at least I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure I didn't speak that out loud, but anyway, I just wanted to clarify that I didn't speak that part out loud, but I did say, it made a lot of sense like that. But the other thing was an embellishment that I pretty sure I didn't speak out loud. I could have. Who knows, right? Way to clarify, Matt. Nice clarification. Way to clarify. But I do find that I actually find that just living in New York City presents one with a lot of moral dilemmas, and I think that's good. I think that's good to be challenged, to be taken out of your comfort zone. And I like that. Like, I'm out of my comfort zone right now. I was out of my comfort zone this morning when I turned on this Instagram Live. I was kind of like, I don't know if I can do this well. And then I just repeated my mantra, which is be average. Be average, Matt. Be average. That's one of my mantras. Please don't take that one. Well, you can, whatever. I don't care. There's plenty to go around. But I do, moral dilemmas, you know, I'll share another one with you. 10 years ago, my daughter Una was 10 years old at that time. No, actually, that's not true. She was 7 years old at the time. So maybe it wasn't like 10 years ago. Maybe it was like 8 or 9 years ago. Whatevs. You get the point. It was a long time ago. So anyway, we were going to go to the theater, and we had tickets to see a solo performance of a very cool solo show that was off Broadway at a place called the New Victory Theater, and it was from England, and it had rave reviews, and it started at 7 o'clock. It was during midweek, and it was summertime. It was bloody hot. It was bloody hot. It was bloody hot. I dialects are my thing. Whatever. Don't worry about it. So, but. It was really, really hot, and the curtain was at 7 o'clock, and we were getting ready to go, and I got a call from my agent, my commercial agent, and the fabulous Tracy Goldblum, and so I got a call for a 6:30 commercial audition. I was like, oh my goodness, we have 7 o'clock theater tickets. How's this going to work out? So anyway, we got to the audition. I said, oh no, we have to go to this audition. So I take her to this audition, right? I go in, I do my thing, I come out, and now it's like 6:45. And we get on the elevator, and we go down to the street, and I look up, and there's this like wall of black clouds coming from like the New Jersey side. It's coming like this, and we're on like 27th Street, something like that. And all of a sudden, the big lightning boom and the rain just like comes pouring down, completely unexpected. We were completely unprepared. I was like, oh no. And we're in like a weird sort of like wholesale-y type of area. So there's no place to like get an umbrella or something like that. And I'm looking around. This was a while ago. So like there's like no Uber or anything like that, but there's traffic. There's no cabs available. People are jumping in open. I was like, oh no. We have to walk like, I don't know, like 15 blocks to 42nd Street. We only had like 15 minutes. I was like, what are we going to do? If it wasn't raining, we would make it. But like, what's happening? We'll be so wet, and we'll be cold, and the theaters be terrible. Then I remembered there was a bucket of umbrellas upstairs in the casting waiting room. I thought to myself, oh my God, should I steal an umbrella? And I did. I went up in the elevator, and I took one of the umbrellas out of the bucket, and I stole it. Anyway. So I took this umbrella, and we got to the theater, and it was amazing and everything like that. Now, I don't know what happened to that umbrella after that. Actually, here's the thing, I felt like so much guilt about this, and I was trying to justify it with myself. I was like, Matt, no one really owns umbrellas. You know what I mean? Umbrellas just kind of like float the earth. They're like the one thing that like people don't own, right? They just float the earth, whatever. You find them all, whatever. You lose them, big deal, right? But I have to admit, like I had this guilt about the umbrella. I had an audition back there kind of recently, before the whole pandemic thing. I had an audition at this place, right? So I went. Now, it's like 8-9 years later. So I go in. It's the same casting director, this guy, really, really cool. So I go in, I do my audition, I nail it, but they went a different way. Anyway, but so I do the audition, and after the audition, I tell him the story. I'm like, hey, look, and I told him I stole an umbrella. And then he says to me, oh, no big deal. He's like, that's what they're there for. They are like lost umbrellas, and that's what they're there for. And they're just like, nobody owns those. I was like, what? I was like, but here's the thing. I don't feel like that lets me off the hook. I feel like I feel like it was still a sin. What? Oh my gosh. So again, Matt, great story. Way to make yourself vulnerable, way to put it back there, put it out there, not back there. But But here I went for all that time. I went for all that time feeling that guilt. Here's another correlation to that about feeling the guilt. I did not at any point during that time, I don't recall ever crying over that course of years. And I wonder if that guilt sort of blocked up my tear ducts in some way. I wonder if that's possible. Like guilt can crystallize and like block up your tear ducts and cause you not to cry, or maybe like block the sensitive part of your heart in some way, like a film over it, like a fascia, like right. Is that what it's called? Like the film, like anyway. But like, I wonder if that's what guilt does. But one day it dawned on me that I hadn't cried in years, and I was again on the subway. Wah, wah, wah. So I ran into my friend Rob, who I hadn't seen in a while, and he's like, "Hey man, what's up? What's going on? Hey man, how are you?" I'm like, "You tell me." So I was like, "Well, here's the thing, Rob. I'm just like thinking, like I haven't had a good cry in a very long time, like years." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was concerned. He was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah, is that okay?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I cry every day." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I cry every day." And I was like, "Rob, that's too much. You shouldn't cry every day. Are you sad?" I was like, I want to like find some happy medium. I don't want to cry every day. And he's like, "Oh, no. But like," I said, "Are you sad? Are you okay?" He's like, No, I intentionally cry. I make time to cry every day." I was like, "That's wild." And I was like, that's really crazy. And so I believed him. You know what I mean? I totally believed him. I wrote something else here that I wanted to cover in this. He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "But yeah." He essentially, forces himself to cry, but not really. And I believed him. Like knowing him, I believed him. It wasn't like he was telling me some sort of crazy tale. Oh yeah, here's the connection. It wasn't like I actually, he wasn't saying something that I didn't believe. I was like, no, I know you, Rob. He does that. He sets aside time to cry. I Not like other people who would tell you something then that's not true. For example, I worked in a restaurant with this guy. I was a food runner with my pal Terry, and this guy said to us one time, we were talking about whether we like Coke or Pepsi better, and this other guy goes like, "Oh, I only drink Coke. And he said, "I've never had Pepsi in my entire life." And we're like, "What? Surely you've had Pepsi before. You mean you prefer Coke over Pepsi?" He's like, "No, I've never had Pepsi in my entire life. I would never eat that." Sheep beep. And I was like, "What? That's so weird. Then how do you know you don't like it?" He's like, "I just know I would not like Pepsi." I was like, "But this just doesn't make sense that you have decided that." I just know I wouldn't. And I was like, "Well, I mean, Burger King serves Pepsi, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, if you've eaten at Burger King, chances are you've had Pepsi." He's like, "I would never eat Burger King. I've never eaten at Burger King in my entire life." I was like, "What? You've never eaten at Burger King in your entire life? That just can't be." He's like, "I would never eat that." Whatever. And so then my friend Terry and we just sort of like riffed with this, and like we started to say all these like things that I was like, "I've never been in a car." And Terry's like, "You've never been in a car?" And I was like, "I've never been in a car. I would never get in a car, ever." And he was like, "But have you ever taken a cab?" I was like, "I got in a cab once, and I got out immediately, and I vomited because I would never get any." So anyway, so I believed Rob. And now I'm gonna have a good cry. Yeah. What else do I have here? Oh yeah. One thing that I want to do that I probably will never do, but I really want to do this. I want to collect all the security camera footage that's ever been taken of me, all of it, every little bit, and I want to whittle it down to a 90-minute documentary narrated by either Werner Herzog or David Attenborough, and I want all of it, all of it. I know, it'll be mostly boring stuff, but that might be brilliant. It might be brilliant in its mundaneness, in its mundaneness, boringness. But there would be twists and turns, right? Like the time that I, for some reason, didn't swipe my MetroCard. I just figured I could just, for some reason, I forgot you have to swipe, and then just like walked into the turnstile, like boom, like that would be funny. That could be a funny part of it. Stuff like that. The time I was walking down the street, and I realized that I still had my remote control for my TV. I was like, what is going on? That could be funny. There was the time that I lost my paycheck. That could be funny, the moment that I realized I lost my paycheck. What happened was, I was on my way to the bank, and I was so excited. I had this $1,500 check, and it had taken forever to arrive. It was for work. It's a lot of money, right? $1,500, and it finally arrived in the mail, and I was like, yes! I was so psyched, and I was like, walking to the bank, and I waited in line at the bank, and I was like so happy. And then and here's the weird thing, I did have a daydream that I lost it at some point, but whatever. So I get to the teller, and I can't find it. And then it's like, this is why I want this. I wish I had the security camera footage, because it was like this 180 from like, oh my God. I went from singing to like panic and like fear and frustration, all this stuff sort of came up. I rifled through my whole range of emotions, and I thought, like, if I could have that, could really show my range as an actor. And I was talking to I was going like, think, Uncle Billy, think, It's a Wonderful Life. And I went out and I retraced my steps like a madman. I'm like, looking for the thing. I get back to my building, and maybe like a half hour later or so, I get back to my building, and stuck like in the second door, like as you come in from the street, on the second door, lodged in there is the envelope, the check envelope, and someone wrote on it like, thought you might need this. And then I opened it up, and it was my check. It was also the guy's card, and it was this guy Mort. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I deposited the check immediately. I shorten words. I'm really good at shortening words, whatever. So don't worry about it. So I feel the need to write a thank you note to this guy. And so I went up to my apartment, and I wrote like, your act of kindness means the world to me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And then I wrote, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And then I thought, that's kind of crazy, right? That might freak Mort out. I mean, it's freaking me out just reading it right here, right? So I think, okay, so I can't start over, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And then I was thinking, like, what else could I write? And then I actually thought for a second, maybe I would write like, may King Kong hold you in the palm of his hand. But I didn't write that, but it would be amazing. See, here's the thing. I regret not writing that, and I don't have a lot of regrets. I wish I did, but I didn't write that. But I think, wouldn't it be funny if I did write that, and Mort opened it and he was like, your act of kindness means the world to me. Well, isn't that nice, And thank you from the bottom of my heart. May King Kong hold you in the palm of his hands. Well, that's amazing. What's that knock at my 12th story window? What? Kong? I thought it was the window washer. What, you want to give me a ride in the palm of your... Well, oh my God, I got to put the shoes on. No, okay, I'll go barefoot. Oh, look out for the attack planes, Kong. Oh, again, I wish I said that, but I didn't. I have no regrets, no regrets. I wish I did have regrets. I regret not having regrets. But again, I wish I did. I wish I did that, because then I would be out of my comfort zone. That's the thing. I'm trying to say the things that are not hurtful or offensive, but take me out of my comfort zone, sort of as a social experiment. Everyone I think here probably knows that I'm currently involved in my own little experiment on pronoia. Pronoia being sort of the opposite of paranoia. Pronoia, people who have that delusion or whatever, which I could use a dose of, people who have that delusion really truly believe that the world is conspiring on their behalf. So my experiment is to be that part, my little part of the universe that is conspiring on everyone's behalf. So that's what I'm doing. I am actively conspiring on people's behalves and on your behalves. Anyway, but I do try to go out of my comfort zone and say things that are fun, loving, and but not offensive in any way or make people feel bad, but just make people feel good about themselves. Maybe people, make their day unique in some way or memorable. So, for example, whenever I'm walking by an Apple store and I have extra time, I like to go in and say to the employee who approaches me, I like to say, like, what is this place? And then they'll say, like, oh, it's the Upper West Side store. I'm like, oh, okay, what, the Upper West Side store of what? And they'll be like, oh, it's the Apple store. It's the Apple store. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what do you do? Is it, I thought it was a museum or something like that. It's not a museum. They're like, no, it's we sell Apple products. I'm like, oh, great. All right, well, thank you very much. And then I leave, and I feel like I made their day, because then, like, if their day is not exciting, then at least they'll have something to talk about. They'll be like, hey, can you believe this guy came in and didn't know what the Apple store was? And I think that's a comment on society, that everyone knows what that product is. You know what I mean? Talk amongst yourselves about that. Here's something else. I did very minimal research into the Apple Corporation. It was like a quick Google search. Google, don't get me started. But here's the thing about Apple, being an Apple employee, is I heard this from a friend of mine. They have something called fearless feedback. And here's what it is. Like, at any point, anyone, I think, if you're don't quote me on this, but go ahead and find this research, follow up on this. If you are an Apple employee, you can go up to another Apple employee and say, like, hey, you get a minute? I have some fearless feedback for you. And it's like a criticism. Like, they can give you sort of an adjustment or whatever. Hey, and I feel like I am so defensive as a person that if somebody came up to me, like, I'm not sure, I guess it would work for me, but anyway, if someone came up to me and was like, hey, Matt, do you have a minute? I want to give you some fearless feedback. I feel like I would be like, oh yeah, absolutely, I do have a minute. And I'm so glad that you're approaching me, because I've got some fearless feedback for you. You go first, okay? And I'd be like, oh, okay, is that my fearless? Whatever, duly noted. Thank you for that. And here's my fearless feedback. You should mind your own beeswax, okay? That's what I would say. I would say beeswax. I just used it like 3 times. Don't question whether I would use beeswax. I would use beeswax. I would use it verbally, and I would also use beeswax. I would plug my ears with beeswax, just like Odysseus. I know the story of Odysseus. Don't worry about it. But also the other thing they have at Apple, see, I have long suspected, I'm shifting gears now to acronyms. Una will back me up on this. I have long suspected that people come up with the acronym first, and then sort of the acrostic poem part of it, you know what I mean, where they fill the things in. Like it's been a suspicion of mine for a long time. It was confirmed because Apple has something called, this is an acronym they called, are you ready? Wait for this. It's called Apple. Apple has something. Now, clearly, Apple came up with that. They were like, okay, it's a one-syllable word. We've got to make it some sort of acronym. So they did. So that's why I think that a lot of acronyms are, they come up with a word, you know what I mean, the word first. And Apple's acronym, an acronym is different from an acronym. An acronym is someone who's an expert at creating acronyms, and that's what I am. No, but so their acronym is APPLE, and it means approach, probe, present, listen, and end. So that's what it stands. That's the thing. And approach means like come up to someone, I think like sort of friendly, like, hi, welcome to the Apple store, right? To approach that way in an inviting kind of way, and then probe, like, so what, you know, try to find out like what their issue is, why are they there, right? Makes sense. And then the third one is to present them with a solution, and preferably maybe, well, you know, you could do the Genius Bar, or maybe, you know, we have this little product right here, it's only $49.99, that maybe whatever you could use, whatever, and then like present them with some sort of product or whatever. I think it's like product or help in some way, and then you listen to their reply and their feedback, and then you end it in a way that sets like sort of an expectation that you'll see them again, that they'll return to the store. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you next time. All right. That kind of a thing or whatever. Well, let us know. Keep us posted. You know, you should check out the thing, but that sort of thing. So, so anywho, I just want to say, I'm going to give you some fearless feedback, and you're awesome. All of you are awesome. And so thank you very much. And I'm going to end this. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.